Hi everyone, my name is Robert Moody. I am the principal conductor of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra. I can't tell you how happy I am to give you that title right now. For the first time, starting off with our Masterworks concert to kick off the 16-17 season, this becomes real. We have been planning for this for well over a year now, and finally I get the chance to take the musical helm of this great orchestra and get to know this city and spend time making sure that live music, live orchestral music, is the absolute heart of the city of Memphis. So the opening concert is one that I designed to hopefully kick off this new chapter of the Memphis Symphony with a bang. You always want to start the season of an orchestra with a great amount of energy and music that really shows the full capabilities, the full power of a live symphony orchestra. I think the works that we've chosen for you will do just that. You could say that the concert, especially the first half, has a very Latin flair to it. We're opening with a piece that is called the Danzón number 2. I think more appropriately one should say the Danzón número 2 of Arturo Marquez. Arturo Marquez is a living Mexican composer, and though he is Mexican, the danzón is actually a Cuban dance form. And Marquez, when he wrote this piece about 20 years ago, was thinking of maybe being in a sultry Havana cafe as over in the corner a piano and an upright string bass and maybe a clarinet began to play this very beautiful, again I say sultry theme. Then this is passed around finally to the entire orchestra and turns into, well, a party. It seems like just the joint starts jumping, and it becomes one of the most amazing pieces for orchestra that I think has been written in a number of years. I know you're going to enjoy this Danzón número 2 of Arturo Marquez to kick off the concert. I also wanted to make sure that on the season this year, we did many things to celebrate Memphis. I'm learning very quickly what a unique and fantastic arts and music culture that is Memphis. There's a vibe to Memphis that is like no other place I've ever been. So we want to celebrate that as much as possible. You're going to see a lot of that in our programming over the coming season. One way that we celebrated Memphis and music that was developed here in Memphis is by our soloist who's performing on the opening concert. His name is Jesse Kasinger. Now, Jesse comes originally from Nashville, and at the moment he's finishing a degree at Rice University in Houston, Texas. Here's the Memphis connection. About 2 years ago, I was invited by the Brevard Music Center to judge their annual Summer Music Festival Concerto competition. The winner of this competition, hands down, was Jesse Kasinger. He played an amazing virtuosic work on the violin. Right about the time that I was offered this position with the Memphis Symphony, I had this chance to judge this competition, and I looked on the biography and saw that Jesse Kasinger was just finishing his degree in violin performance at the University of Memphis. So his skills, his incredible talent, is due in great part to education right here in Memphis. So we're bringing him back. He's going to play the Sarasate Carmen Fantasy Suite. Now, Sarasate was a violin virtuoso, like Paganini or Wieniawski, and he wrote pieces that just really show off all the fireworks of a violin. The amazing things that can be done when a violin virtuoso takes to his or her instrument. So you'll see Jesse do this in the Carmen Fantasy. Carmen means that all of the tunes that will be sort of played around on the violin come from the great opera Carmen by Georges Bizet. Now, I'm going to tell you one other thing that hopefully will whet your appetite to come to the concert. Jesse is going to play the Carmen Fantasy Suite, which is about 12 minutes long. He is also going to play another surprise piece, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to come to the concert to find out. But after the Carmen Fantasy Suite, there is another great virtuosic work for violin and orchestra, and we wanted to add that really just as a special surprise for you in the audience. Come to the concert to find out what that piece is going to be. When it came to choosing the opening major orchestral work for our first concert together this season, I actually went in my mind to the power of the Memphis Symphony Orchestra, these players and how fantastic they are, and the power of this hall in which I am standing, the Cannon Center for the Arts. I realized that this hall and this orchestra were the perfect marriage for a piece by Hector Berlioz called Symphonie Fantastique. So we're opening our big orchestral work for the season is the Symphonie Fantastique. You've probably heard this piece before. It's one of the most famous pieces in the repertory. What I can tell you about the piece is that it was meant to be performed in a most dramatic fashion. And that's where the canon center comes in. There is a moment in the piece, for example, in which there is a shepherd call between an oboe who is supposed to be somewhere off of the stage and an English horn on the stage. It recalls a pastoral scene where two pipers in the field are calling to each other. Well, this wonderful space, the Canon Center, has such a great balcony space. So we're actually going to move one of our oboists, our principal oboist, up into the balcony, and you will hear this sound coming from like it's off in a field, and then the English horn on stage. Later on in that same movement, there is supposed to be this foreboding sound of thunder, and Berlioz makes this happen by having four timpanists play four different pitches on drums. We've gone a step further. We're actually placing the timpani around the room. Now this will happen, of course, both at the Canon Center and at GPAC in Germantown. But these four timpani will be in two areas down near the orchestra and two areas well up in the balcony. So you really get live surround sound in this concert as well. So I talked about the dramatic elements of the Berlioz. What is the drama? Well, it's pretty much an autobiography of Hector Berlioz. You see this young man, Hector Berlioz, in the 1820s, fell head over heels in love, really obsessively so, with a woman named Harriet Smithson. And he wrote this piece based upon that love that he felt for her. It was really a vehicle to woo her as well. So in the story, there is an artist, and he, because of his obsessive love for a woman, takes himself on an opium-induced trip. And in this fantasy, in this place where he is existing because of the opium, he moves first through beautiful feelings about his beloved, and the beloved has her own tune. He called it an idée fixe. An idée fixe, well, in English, a fixed idea. Wagner would have called it a leitmotif. But this idée fixe means that one melody belongs to one character in the story. In this case, the melody is heard first in the violins, dum pam ta dum ta da 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 dum dum ti dum, and then you will hear this melody moving throughout the orchestra. So anytime you hear that melody, that idée fixe, you know that we are talking about the woman, the beloved of Berlioz. At first, as I said, it's a story of their love, and in his fantasy, she loves him very much. That moves to a scene at a ball where he begins to dance with her, but then he sees her at times at the ball across the room speaking to other men, and he becomes filled with jealousy. This is important for the next scene, which is called a scene in the country. At first we hear two shepherds calling to each other, and we can imagine that the two lovers are sitting in a field in the countryside, enjoying maybe an afternoon picnic. But this is the point where his jealousy over her becomes too much. Thunder at the end of the movement shows that he can't take his jealousy anymore, and he actually kills his beloved in a jealous rage. For this, he is sentenced to the gallows. And the fourth movement is the march to the scaffold, as our artist is marched up in a very French, imagine the Bastille, marched up to the gallows and taken to the guillotine. And he describes the guillotine with pizzicato, plucking strings. There is a moment you won't miss where one clarinet plays the last little theme of his beloved as he thinks of her. Down comes the guillotine, and actually the pizzicati, the plucking strings, represent the head bouncing down the steps of the gallows. It's pretty gruesome, but then it moves into a Halloween-like fantasy, and he believes that his soul now is moving down to the netherworlds for his sin. And at this moment, witches and ghosts and goblins begin to engulf him. We know this happens when the famous Berlioz bells strike the Dies Irae. Dies Irae is Latin for day of wrath, day of mourning, very famous old chant of the church, and bells were built, huge bells, just to create this sound. So on stage, take a look for this very high vertical set of chimes, and those are the Berlioz bells. You will not miss them. They then signal that this day of wrath, day of mourning is coming. The tuba and the low instruments of the orchestra join the bells. Eventually the entire orchestra gets involved. At one point, something fantastic happens. The bones of skeletons dance all around Berlioz. And this is accomplished by the string players using the wood of the bow to hit their instrument. We also ask the trumpet players to unscrew the valves of their trumpets and play the valves. It gives the perfect click-clack sound of bones rattling. So getting us near to the Halloween timing made sense for this opening piece. The most dramatic story maybe that I know in the repertory being told by the most dramatic and wonderful orchestra, your Memphis Symphony Orchestra. Really hope to see you at the concert.